Covering the community, events, and people of Georgia, Carolina. This is the Means Report. Here is Brad Means.
Hello again, everybody, and welcome to the Means Report. Hope that your time is going nicely these days as the season gets more and more hectic and as Christmas approaches. I hope you are taking time out to slow down and enjoy the season. Speaking of which, we're going to talk about holiday stress today on the Means Report, how you can handle it. A cardiologist from Doctors Hospital is going to be on the set with us to give us some great advice really on how to just take our lives and take a step back and be healthier and happier really, not only during stressful times like right now perhaps, but really year round. First, though, we're going to welcome back to the set of the Means Report Mayor Deke Copenhaver, the mayor of Augusta, Georgia. And I'm keeping my fingers crossed that he feels welcome because a lot has happened since our last get-together, Mayor. You're just coming off vacation, but there's a list of stuff, some of it not pleasant, to talk about since you've been gone. Did you have a good week, first of all?
We did, and that's all about the de-stressing. I think I have a stressful job, as do you. Every now and again, you got to get away.
You do have to get away. While you were gone, the commission considered the redistricting proposal, a proposal that Commissioner Alvin Mason and others were quick to point out was approved unanimously by the ad hoc committee that reviewed it. This committee, folks, was made up of 4 members of the Augusta Commission, 4 members of our legislative delegation, and 4 members of the Richmond County School Board, okay? So you take that map that committee approved, and then you start submitting it to the various bodies, commission, school board, and legislature. First stop the commission, where the vote on whether or not to approve these new districts that were redrawn to represent the results of the most recent census, and the commission split 5-5. Mayor Copenhaver was not there the day of the vote because of the aforementioned vacation. The mayor could have broken the tie. Before we talk about it, let's hear what Commissioner Mason had to say, a very frustrated commissioner, when that essentially went nowhere that day.
And then for it to come up on this commission with this circus that we saw in here today, with the mayor being absent and with District 1 commissioner voting for it, was absolute disgusting in my opinion.
Mayor, I'm not sure if you could hear that. He said that it was a circus-like atmosphere the day of the vote. He also mentioned that the District 1 commissioner was not there or not voting, and that you were absent, and he called the whole thing disgusting. I guess the big question is, what would you have done if you were there?
You know, Brad, it's so funny. People come up with these conspiracy theories, and, you know, I try to conduct myself in a very professional manner. With regards to what I would have done, I didn't see a problem going in because the committee approved it unanimously. So I didn't think that there would be any controversy with that vote. But I would have taken the recommendation of the committee and approved it as well and broken the tie in favor. So it's pretty much, that's the way I do business. I take the advice of the administrator. You know, if I'm going to break a tie, I break it based on the advice of the department heads, the administrator, the attorney. In this situation, I would have done the same thing. The committee approved it unanimously, so it would stand to reason that the commission wouldn't have had a problem. I don't know what got sideways, but this is, you know, our commission oftentimes don't know what gets sideways with them.
Well, what do you think happened? Did they break off and have private meetings before the big vote, and then they just tried to surprise Mason and others with the 5-5 tie? You had people who you thought were going to support it and then bailed out at the last minute.
Brad, I really don't know what got sideways on that. I don't know who met with whom. But, you know, I had heard that apparently that I had left town in order not to break the tie, which couldn't be more ludicrous. You know, with my schedule, I've got to plan vacations months in advance.
Yeah.
Melissa and I always try to get out of town 1 week between Thanksgiving and Christmas just to sort of take the stress off the holidays. We've been doing that for years, so there's no conspiracy theory here. But once again, if I had broken the tie, I would have broken it in favor of it.
Well, then you would have voted in favor of what many see as a step forward for the city of Augusta, because you have a map that reflects the population of our voters, and in the new map, 6 districts would have been majority African American. 6. You could look forward and say potentially we could have 6 African Americans to 4 non-African Americans on the commission going forward if voters followed racial lines. But you would have gone ahead and said yes, because that reflects the way voters are now.
Brad, it is still disconcerting to me that the leaders of this community continue to play the black-white thing. Look, I believe that Augusta has been majority African American. Every time I've been elected, I've won with an average of 64% of the vote. It hasn't been all white people or all black people that have put me in office, and I think we've had some Hispanic voters in there too. So it's, to me, you know, to keep going back to the racial issue, just put good candidates in office.
Yep.
I would not care if I had 10 black commissioners to work with, 10 white commissioners to work with, whatever the racial makeup is. Just give me good, forward-thinking, progressive-minded people that are concerning themselves with the community as a whole, not just certain sections of the community.
I'm telling you, you know, maybe we're not supposed to give our opinion on the news, but I agree with the mayor. We've got to get rid of this distrust.
And let me just, I want one more point on that.
Yep.
I'm out there throughout the community on a daily basis, and it's not just me saying this. You know, when I'm at the Y in the morning, which, oh, by the way, is a great, you know, mix of people, young and old, of all cultures, creeds, they're sick of it.
Yep.
I hear it every week how sick people are of it. And I would say that, you know, me being voted in with an average of 64% of the vote, not talking about these things, talking about how we need to work together as a community, and the fact that there's no us and them, it's all us. That's what people have supported in my elections, and I believe that's what they will support in elections going forward.
You know what? I believe you're right, too. I believe people are sick of the distrust, and I think you're going to see that reflected at the ballot box. The Garden City Rescue Mission. This was a big story that our senior reporter, George Askela, tackled this week, and it involves the Garden City Rescue Mission's property taxes being owed, about $6,000. There's going to be a recommendation to the commission next week that the Garden City Rescue Mission pay these taxes, where in the past they've been waived. Where do you come down on that, and what do you think is going to happen?
Well, I think generally the commission in the past, particularly with nonprofits and with organizations like this, have been lenient with that. I would not expect, particularly during the holiday season, for that not to be the case this time. I understand we have a budget crunch, but you know, when you've got organizations providing very needed services to the citizens of this community, the lower income citizens of this community during this economy, I think that we really should take a look at helping them out.
All right, I want to talk about something else as well that's just coming down the pipe during the taping of the Means Report, and that is layoffs in the Garden City. The mayor and I have talked on this very set before about the need to cut costs and the need to make up millions of dollars in budget deficits, budget shortfalls. This time around, a big list of layoffs is coming. Commissioners set to consider this next week as well. I've heard from very reliable sources you could be looking at 60 layoffs, give or take. Actual human beings who are getting paid right now, not empty positions. What's going to happen here, and can't you tell us right now, citizens of Augusta are going to see this and feel this if this many people lose their jobs?
They will, Brad, and I've said on this show and publicly time and again, you know, we're in a very difficult budgetary situation, and we're not alone in that. Other cities are as well. You know, the commission in our last retreat said, we don't want to raise taxes, we don't want to do furloughs, so where else are you going to get the revenues or the cuts? You've got to do layoffs. And it's not a pretty situation, but that's the situation we're given. And you can't, you know, you've got to do one or the other. We can't continue, and I would say just to continue to dip further and further into, you know, the rainy day funds, that's not a good idea either, because ultimately that impacts our bond rating. So we passed a budget with no tax increase, no furloughs, but you know, you've got to really balance the budget someplace. I hate it, you know, but it's a reality of the situation. And other cities, you know, they're sending home police officers, they're sending home firefighters. Fortunately, we haven't had to do that, but Augusta is not unlike other cities in that we're having to make the tough choices.
What grass is not going to get cut? What parks are going to close? Can you tell us about anything in 2012 that we'll actually notice?
No, that remains to be seen. And let me just say too, Brad, from a budgetary standpoint, this is a working document. Obviously, the final budget approval won't be given until next summer, so we can make adjustments as we go along. If revenues increase, that helps us out. So I'm not sure exactly what grass isn't going to be cut or parks are going to be closed, but it's a living document. It's not the final document, so we can work with it as we go through until final approval next summer.
All right, give us an update on the parking deck. We asked you about that the last time you were here. I know that's also a fluid situation. Have we determined who owns the brand new deck across from the under construction T Center and how much money we're going to make off of it?
The city owns the deck. we have the air rights, obviously.
For floors 2 and above.
2 and above.
Okay.
And the projections, I have not seen the latest cost projections. We'll do fine off of this deal, and the final deal has not yet been approved, but the administrator has put together a great deal to the benefit of the city. You know, no deal is perfect. I think we will get that approved, but we've got to move forward, as I have said so often on here, Brad. You know, it seems like no decision is ever a final decision.
No.
A decision is made and things are backtracked on. So we, as a city, have got to move forward. You know, I'm out there focused on creating jobs, growing the local economy, creating opportunity. That will be my primary focus for the next 3 years, because that benefits all of our citizens. You know, just to continually spend so much time and energy backtracking to look at situations, it's counterproductive in my opinion.
Mayor, you seem to have taken on a I have nothing to lose attitude because you're not going to run again. Is that true? Do you kind of feel like, you know what, it's time to really just start plowing forward as hard as I can and make the most of these last few years in office?
Absolutely. 3 years is going to go by in a hurry. But Brad, let me just say this. Since becoming mayor, I've focused on governing in this respect, and I learned this lesson through a church leadership retreat. In church politics, you have 3% of the people that say yes to everything, 3% say no, 12% say yes but, 12% say no but, and then you've got the 70% in the middle that aren't that vocal, but that just want to see things move forward. I'm focused on the majority, that 70% in the middle, and I'm not going to be distracted by the 3% on either end, because if you're just listening to them, you're missing out on doing what's right for the majority of the citizens you serve. That's my focus.
You know, there were some bah humbug type people also while you were on vacation complaining about the cost of our Christmas tree. You did a wonderful job lighting it, as you always do. There was a big celebration at the Common. But people said that since that tree was about $7,000, it's time to just go with an artificial one and stop spending all this money on our tree. Your thoughts on that? I mean, they're attacking you on all sides now.
Well, you know, Brad, you do have people that are going to have a problem with everything. I think it is a wonderful event. I love the tree. In the grand scheme of things, $7,000, you know, total city budget-wise is not a bad thing. You know, if people want to call in and say, well, we want to voice our opinion that we need an artificial tree, fine. But, you know, during Christmas, come on, let's find better things to argue about than the Christmas tree. How
about Columbia County starting to feel some of the controversy now, too? You're no longer alone. They're going crazy about that Magnolia Trace housing development out there. Does that sort of make you think, you know, you're not happy that there's controversy, but that you're not alone?
No, and Brad, you've got controversy every place you go. I was speaking at an event in Madison this morning. I interact with people in local governments from around the state and from around the nation, as a matter of fact, and you've got it everywhere. But one thing I'll say is I don't feed controversy or create controversy. Patient persistence is what gets things done. You know, I don't get too high or too low. I just keep moving forward. And that's, I believe, how we're accomplishing things in Augusta. But you're always going to have controversy. And it's unfortunate when you have elected officials that want to grandstand and feed the controversy, because I don't think that gets things done.
No, and I think you're right. There's 70% at least people out there that just want to see us keep moving forward and stop all this nonsense. I'll give you the last word here as we approach Christmas and the new year. Do you have high hopes for the city of Augusta? I mean, it's not ending on the most positive of notes with all of this infighting. But look ahead into your crystal ball and tell me what you kind of think is going to happen down the road.
You know, Brad, I have huge high hopes for the city. This year we've opened Costco, we've opened the parking deck, the Judicial Center. You know, last week bringing in this new chemical company, 80 to 100 jobs was announced. So we're doing well. We can be doing better. I expect a great year next year. And you know what? I'm not going to sit back and wait for it to happen. I'm going to go out and make it happen. And if we all have that attitude, great things will happen, and I believe that.
Well, we appreciate your takes on everything that's been going on. Your opinion has been honest and always very forthcoming with the information that you can provide. Thanks for a great year.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Mayor Deke Copenhaver, you heard him. He's on the road just a few minutes ago. Then he stops by here. Then he's on to other things. And we're always grateful that he stops by regularly on the Means Report. Keep watching for that in 2012. You'll continue to get the latest information from the person at the top. When we come back, we're going to talk about multitasking moms and just the general stress of the season. And a cardiologist from Doctors Hospital will be here to tell us how to handle it as the Means Report continues.